Welcome back to the Row by Row, Row 4 tutorial. This lesson will focus on the background filler, basket weave. I've chosen this filler because I wanted some continuity in the overall design that Jean made with these floral motifs. And what better than to incorporate baskets and flowers. Hopefully, at this point, you've already taken a look at the video tutorial lesson on how to stitch the basket weave. I will be going over that briefly, but I wanted to also bring some issues to your attention that you may have and help you work through them. As in our other lessons, I want to point out that this part of the motif, or the area of the quilt, is just floral, leaves and flowers, petals that we're going to be dealing with. Some vines, but mostly the floral petals and leaves. And so, unlike the pearls and swirls background that we did, or the pebbles and swirls also, I only did a single line of echoing around the motif. This is going to be our travel line while we are working through the quilting process of the basket weave. So the others, which you may see right up here in this section right here, we did a triple line. But here we just have a single line of echoing. As in the lesson that you should have previously already viewed in learning how to stitch the basket weave motif, we are starting up at step 1, right where I have my needle set. You will notice that below, down in this area, and up here, I have, and here's another spot right here, I have marked out the stencil in its entirety and then placed registration marks so that I know which direction and where my lines should be. That is completely up to you if you want to put these additional lines in. I do so when I'm coming close to an edge of a motif, like right up here or near the leaves, or where the wonderful wind trail that the butterfly will leave is going to be butting up against the pearls and swirls filler. I do this right in here so that I know where my line work should disappear into, so that it will look like the basket weave is underneath everything, and I'll show you that effect later. Here, instead of doing all 4 lines, because my muscle memory has kicked in, I'm just putting a halfway mark where my halfway line should be for the basket weave in these spots. Something else I want to bring to your attention is this line. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there is a line running right across here. And I don't think you can pick it up. Let me adjust my camera. There we go. There's a line running from this from across. It's going right across the basket weave. I've stitched this line. And the reason why I did that is in the tutorial, I explained how I quilt. You always want to quilt from the middle of your quilt out. But this is an exception, and this is a tip for you. You can go in, especially in these areas where you have a lot of basket weave design to cover, you can go in and pick lines and quilt them down, and that way it breaks your quilting areas up into sections just like we did with the pearls and swirls. This is going to do a couple of things for you. It's going to go ahead and permanently stitch down the quilt. You can be able to remove all your pins if you have any pins remaining, basting pins remaining. It's also going to secure this area a little bit more and give you an idea of where you may have some potential puckers. And as we move along in this lesson, I'll get to those areas and help you identify them and hopefully get past them without having any puckers. The other thing that it will allow you to do is it will allow you to move around the quilt. And so this particular section, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the view just a tad. I broke it down into 3 pieces on this side of the quilt because right here is the edge, if you can see that. This means that my hand is going to be able to rest nice and easy and comfortable instead of having to roll up and puddle the quilt. I will be able to keep good hand position. There are going to be times where I'm going to have to really tension the fabric because we have a lot of fullness here, a lot of loft that's up here, and we're going to have to tension it properly if we want to avoid those puckers. At the same time, it also allows you to work with your fingertips when you get into some very delicate areas that you need to maneuver around. So again, breaking your quilting up into sections allows you to move around freely, and so you don't necessarily have to start in the middle of your quilt to do this. You can start from the bottom and work in different sections. So let's go ahead and start quilting. I'm at my starting point. I'm going to reposition the camera again so that you can get a better view. Pardon the bobble. So we're at point 1. I'm gently tensioning the fabric right now, and we're going to stitch down. Step 2 is to stitch across. Now up halfway from that halfway point and across to the left. Travel up, across to the right. That's your halfway point. Stitch up halfway. Stitch across to the right. Travel up. Stitch across to the right. Hit that point right there. Now we're going to travel down, or stitch down I should say, across to the left and up, across to the right, and we begin again. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep stitching. You can follow along. Again, there's a tutorial for you to review along with a muscle memory sheet, so print those out, follow the steps, practice a little bit, and you will be ready to take this on. It looks intimidating, but it really isn't. It's a nice, almost continuous stitching type of a pattern. Okay, we're getting close here to where I can feel the fabric and the batting starting to move. And so it's really going to be important for me to tension out this fabric and try to keep it as flat as possible. You will also notice that your fabric is going to move, and those wonderful straight, and I just messed up, just come right back down. I'm talking. Go back across. It's a very forgiving pattern. And again, I'm using bottom line on the top. And so the thread basically melts into the fabric. You really don't see those stitches per se. You just get the wonderful texture. So If you lose focus, it's okay. You don't have to break thread. Just travel back down and find your spot. What I was trying to say is you will find that your straight lines that you drew on your fabric are going to start looking crooked, and that's because your fabric and your batting is moving. So again, that hand tensioning, if you need to stop, if you see it looking really crooked, you're going to want to stop. Make sure that you've hand tensioned this and go down as straight as possible. Another tip when you're getting ready to approach where stitches are already at, here's that, it's kind of like a plume trail from the butterfly. You not only want to tension your hand to make sure this is as smooth as possible, but you're going to want to slow down your speed so that you can see any potential pucker forming. Here we look good. It's nice and strong. I'm going to stop. Pardon me, I hit the camera. At the travel line, I'm going to travel up. Along that line, now I can come across. And now you'll see why those registration lines right there are so important. Okay, I've lost my tension, so I'm going to stop. Get my tension nice and snug there. Come across, down, use my travel line, up, across, down. All right, right here, we've lost our little rhythm, so we're just going to go in and travel and stitch and get this little section right here. So I'm going to go up, across, backtrack, up, and across. Now, we're going to move up and travel that line up to this point right here. I'm just going to stitch these lines however we can get them. Come back, up, and now we're back into our little rhythm. And now we're going to be going to the left. So the left, now we're going to come across, and when we come across here at the bottom, we're actually finishing off the top of the previous row, and that's how you get your finish. So here we're going to do basically backwards. We're going to go up, now across to the right, stitch up halfway, come across to the left, come up, go across to the right, come to the top of our point, and all the way across to the left. Okay, right there, I think you can see just a little distortion on those lines. They're looking crooked, so I want to move my fabric, make sure I have it tensioned correctly, get it as straight as I can, and move on. And if you miss a few, it's perfectly fine. Again, if you look at a basket, there are very few handmade baskets that are perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch on from here, and when I get to a point that I think you might struggle with or need some help with, I'll stop, especially those pesky little puckers that we want to get rid of.